What's up guys, and welcome back to the channel. In today's review we're going to be taking a look at the newly released Transformers Earthrise War for Cybertron Cybertronian villains Wingspan and Decepticon Pounce. Now from my understanding, these two figures are just re-releases from some more elusive Titans Return figures, and I also believe that it was rather difficult to actually acquire both of these, and the real only way you could actually get both of them in an accurate colour scheme was through the Takara Tomy release, which, as we all know, Takara Tomy releases are incredibly difficult to come by. So it's great to see Hasbro and Takara actually re-releasing these, and I also do believe that these are in their more accurate colour schemes. So we can see here that for the packaging it's very similar to that of the pack that I just recently took a look at. We've got some really awesome artwork of Pounce and Wingspan there in their alt forms. We can also see both of them clearly displayed within their robot modes. Transformers Earthrise, the Cybertronian villains logo, and we also have a really cool piece of artwork which I don't believe we've seen on Earthrise yet, that being the Ark crash landing on Earth. If we turn around to the back of the packaging, we have both Wingspan and Decepticon Pounce displayed in both their robot modes as well as in their alt forms, and then the other side of the packaging just has that really cool Earthrise artwork, and then the top of the packaging showcases Galvatron floating in space. So without further ado, let's crack these figures open and see what awaits us inside. First of all, quickly show you the decoding gimmick that is apparent throughout most of these Earthrise figures. So you can see here that we do in fact have a piece of the map, and this does in fact come with one of those red decoders. So if we just hover it over, you can see that this code here states Aquatron. I have no idea to the relevance of this, nor do I necessarily really care. As I've stated, I don't really care too much about this map piece, but I just thought that I would show this off nonetheless. Before we take a look at the figures themselves, I'm first of all going to give you a quick rundown of the instructions. So you can see here that we have got both Wingspan and Decepticon Pounce displayed within their robot modes, and these do show you how to transform both of them from their robot modes into their alt forms. I did expect them to show a hinted at combined form. I know that when the original release of these came out, a lot of people did think that there was an official way to combine these. However, unfortunately these instructions do not hint at that, nor show it whatsoever, which is unfortunate. And something else which I am slightly upset about is that these do not include any accessories whatsoever. And so here we have both Wingspan and Pounce opened up and transformed up into their alt forms. Now I've decided to keep the packaging in for this review just so that the whiteness of the actual figures doesn't become extremely overexposed due to the high lighting. So just quickly showcasing you these in their vehicle mode, I've got to be honest and say that these aren't necessarily my favourite Earthrise figures. I think that they are quite fun, but personally if you have picked up the previous releases then you definitely don't need to get these, and I don't even believe that these even come with accessories. Something which I was expecting them to do as well was to show some kind of combined form in the instructions, which was alluded to in the original Takara Tomy release. There are various ports on these figures which serve no other purpose in either their robot modes or in their vehicle modes that I really thought that Takara Tomy and Hasbro would this time round show us how to properly combine them. But nevertheless, here we have Wingspan, and for the most part it is quite a nice looking figure, particularly here in, I presume it's Hawk mode. You can see that we've got some nice detailings here of the wings. You can definitely pick out the beak and the mouth and the eyes, which will look really nice. The gimmick of these is that they're supposed to look identical in their robot modes and then transform into completely different things within their vehicle modes, and for the most part I do think that this set does achieve this. Now these aren't deluxe class figures, these are more legends class figures. They're slightly smaller than your average deluxe, although to be fair they are quite similar to the scale that we have got with some of the Earthrise deluxes, such as Cliff Jumper, which I'll bring out a comparison for later on. You can see here that we've got the back feather piece, which I think looks quite nice, and then at the base we've also got the claws, which have also been detailed quite nicely. But there is of course evidence that these do in fact transform. You can see the feet here sticking out from the wings. You can also see the tops of the arms sticking out under the underside, which I do think that perhaps they could have covered up slightly better if these were brand new molds and just not re-releases. But as it stands, for quite a fun playable figure, I definitely think that this gets the job done. Taking a look at my actual favourite, here we have Pounce. Now I think Pounce does his vehicle mode a lot better than that of Wingspan. He definitely does convey a look of some type of wolf. He definitely looks incredibly menacing, and I think that he's got a lot more detail in his head than that of Wingspan. You can see the ears, the mouth, the nose, the teeth, all types of detail going on here for the head, including the red painted eyes. I also am a massive fan of the purple plastic that they've this time used for the arms instead of the colouring that was apparent on the original Takara version. In my opinion, these here are actually coloured better than those previous versions, so if you're all for accuracy, definitely pick these ones up. You can see here that he does have details such as the tail, but from the back you can clearly see his robot mode feet jutting out, and unfortunately the degrading of the mould is definitely apparent with these figures. These joints are incredibly loose. Now Now I do imagine I could probably tighten them up as they're just held on via screws, but that is definitely something that I have encountered when handling this figure, is that these legs are incredibly loose, and there are also some parts on this figure which do come quite loose straight out of the packaging, so that is definitely something to be aware of. In terms of articulation, we merely have hinge joints here at the arms on pin joints, and then hinge joints here allowing you to get him in an ever so slightly more lowered pose. We also have got hinges here for where the knee joints are, and then these sections here can also hinge as well depending on how you want to pose this figure. And then here with Wingspan, you can flap the wings around, they are supposed to tab in, but you can definitely angle these up and angle those down. You can angle these feather pieces out, however you can't hinge the head other than forwards and backwards due to transformation. And then the feet here are just on hinge joints, so they're not on ball joints, you can just merely hinge those forwards and backwards ever so slightly. Now, as these figures were released during the era of Titan's Return, they do also have the capability of actually being able to be ridden by one of the headmasters. So here I have got Baby Zarak, or just the headmaster of Zarak from the Titan class Scorponok, and you can of course peg this into the back of either of them. So just pegging him into Pounce, you can see the port there that just will clip into this tab, and there you can have a headmaster riding on the back here of Pounce. And then this exact same thing can be done here for Wingspan, so it's the same procedure. You can see the small port there that we can just tab Baby Zarak into, and that is the Titan's Return capability, which has of course carried over here to Earthrise, as these figures are just re-releases. So without further ado, let's get these clones transformed up. So for this, you just want to take this, collapse this down here, and that literally just stays where it is. You then take the head, and this clips all the way backwards. We can then take the actual robot mode head and rotate this around, and then bring these arms down, snap those down, bring the forearms down. I do believe that these sections here do push up as well, just for a more coherent, more compact backpack. And then we take these sections and just port those in, and then rotate these sections around. And here we have Pounce fully transformed up into his robot mode. So setting him off to the side for now, we'll just bring in Wingspan and begin his transformation. So for this, you just collapse the wings in, bring these sections down, and then tab these pieces together. We can then rotate this section around, bring the head down, and then take these arms, just push these pieces down, rotate these, and then rotate the head around. And then here we have Wingspan fully transformed. And I've got to say, in terms of robot modes, I think Hasbro and Takara have done an excellent job in making these, at least from the front, look almost identical to one another. There's just certain details which are ever so slightly different, just to tell them apart. So here you've got more of a wolf-like silhouette, and then with this one it's more of a hawk or a bird silhouette, just to tell them apart from one another. But bringing them in for a closer look, you can tell that in terms of robot mode, they are pretty much identical, which is absolutely fantastic. I'm really surprised that they managed to pull this off, particularly with this scale, and that's why I just wish that these were slightly bigger, perhaps in the deluxe class format, as I really think they could have absolutely nailed those alt forms. If we turn around from to the back, the illusion is ever so slightly lost, but personally it doesn't bother me whatsoever. You can see here that we do have the feet kibble from the bird mode, and then here we've got the legs from the wolf mode. But I actually do think that these look quite nice. The articulation is exactly the same as one another. So we do have a swivel joint here at the head. The arms here are on ball joints, so they can swivel all the way around as well as hinge out to the sides. We also do get a hinge joint here which rotates full 360. Not entirely sure as to the purpose of this, as we do have a ball joint here for the elbow, which really and truly you don't even really need. So personally I think that they could have lost some of the parts on this and just stuck to merely a ball joint. No wrist articulation, which is unfortunate. No waist articulation, but the legs can kick forwards that far, back that far out to the sides, full 360 rotation there at the thigh, and then 90-degree bend of motion there at the knee. And the articulation is exactly the same here for Wingspan. Quite honestly, robot mode, they definitely do look identical. And then bringing out a Earthrise size comparison, here we have the Earthrise Deluxe Class Cliff Jumper, one of the smallest deluxes to come out of this War for Cybertron trilogy. And you can see that, as I stated earlier, these figures are more or less exactly the same size as this figure. So just comparing them, you can see that they are ever so slightly smaller, but upon looking at them, Cliff Jumper does definitely look as if though he's got a lot more bulk to him. He's a little bit more substantial in terms of his width. He just looks ever so slightly larger. So to go back to my earlier point, these aren't exactly the smallest Earthrise Deluxe Deluxe class scale, so I guess putting them in a more Legends class scale was probably the correct route to go. However, for me, I just wish that they would have upscaled them ever so slightly and added some more engineering to these just to make them slightly more advanced, similarly to Cliff Jumper, just a little bit more of an involved transformation, and I think that we could have had a lot better of beast modes. Robot modes, I can't really complain too much. I think that they do the job really nicely. They look really cool, they pose really cool, but these don't come with any accessories whatsoever, which is unfortunate, and I do believe that the original Takara Tomy versions did actually come with accessories, so it is a shame that they did in this particular release skimp out on those. But if you missed out on these the first time round and was unable to get the Takara Tomy editions, then I definitely recommend this set. And of course, that is the reason as to why Hasbro and Takara re-released these, as they were so hard to find initially. So that was my review on the Transformers Earthrise War for Cybertron trilogy, Cybertronian villains, Wingspan and Decepticon Pounce. Personally, as I had never picked these figures up first time round, I'm really glad to add these to the collection. Whilst they may not be the most involved Transformers out of the Earthrise toy line, they're definitely really fun, and it's great to go back from robot mode into their alt forms, and seeing as they both look identical in their robot modes is a really fun novelty experience. For me, I would have perhaps preferred it if they would have upscaled these ever so slightly, just so that they were a little bit bigger, had a little bit more girth in terms of how much plastic was used, and so that they could have perhaps added some additional elements to the overall transformation to improve those alt forms. However, as it stands, considering that these are slightly smaller scaled figures, I think that their transformations are definitely quite enjoyable, and I think that the alt forms as well as the robot modes are really nice. However, for me, the robot modes are by far superior, and honestly for me, I really think that the robot modes are what Hasbro and Takara Tomy thought about the most. Their vehicle modes definitely do seem as if though they are an afterthought, and seeing as this is a re-release, it is a shame that we don't have any confirmation of a hinted at combined mode, nor do we get any accessories with this set whatsoever. So that was my review on the brand new Transformers Cybertronian villain set. I really hope you enjoyed my review. I have also recently done a review on the newly released first Cybertronian villain set, that being of Thundercracker and Skywarp, so definitely check out that review if you haven't done so already, and be sure to let me know what you thought of both the review and this 2-pack down below. I would be really interested to see your thoughts on these latest releases by Hasbro and Takara, and whether or not you are looking to add these to the collection. I thank you all for watching, and until my next review, I'll see you then.